Hey guys, I'm Jaxter. I'm editor-in-chief for NGS, the content division here. I'm the writer for Division D right now. In addition to all my other duties, I'm also going to be putting on the podcast for you guys. It's going to be hosted by Professor Bobo, Murda, and ghostDunk, which we'll meet in a second. I just wanted to introduce and say thank you to all the patrons that made this possible. Without you guys, it would be impossible. We really do rely on you, and we're really thankful. If you want to become a patron, you can go to patreon.com/Nexus Gaming Series. We have a lot of really good perks there, and I think you'd really enjoy it. Going into what we're going to be trying to do with this podcast, we're looking to create a Heroes of the Storm pod focused through the lens of NGS. So what that means is we're going to be looking at NGS teams, NGS divisions, updates, but we're also going to be looking at the broader Heroes play in general. So that means new patches, hero reworks, the general meta, and other topics that might come up, like mobility creep. We're also going to be looking to talk about HGC a little bit and maybe bring on a few guests that'll be exciting. Apart from that, I just wanted to really say thank you again, all your support. This is a great opportunity, and trying to make the most of it. With that said, I'm going to hand it off to our casters and let them introduce themselves.
All right, the handoff is made. Thank you, Jaxter, for putting this together. I am Professor Bobo. Just again, special thank you to the NGS fam for helping put this together, and I am very appreciative that I've been put in the position to host this podcast, along with two of my best friends. We'll be joined by ghostDunk and with Murda shortly. So for myself, I've been here with NGS for 2 seasons. Last season, season number 3, captained a team down in Division C. This season, stepping up the caster responsibilities a little bit there. As well, I did get a chance to play in Division A. Again, looking forward to this pod, man. Hopefully we can get these out. We're looking again at every 2 weeks or so, thereabouts. We'll see how that winds up getting put together. I hope to hear feedback from the NGS family as well. I know that I have benefited tremendously from those of you that have helped me out trying to steer my casting in the right direction. I hope we can get the same here for the NGS podcast. Without further ado, let me throw it over to the OG, the ghost with the most, my OG senpai, ghostDunk.
Hey, Professor Bobo, thank you so much for the introduction. I don't know if anybody else is doing this, but I'm like getting ready to do something. So like I'm putting my left hand on Q, W, E, and R right now. It's a nervous habit. I don't understand it. Anyways, I'm ghostDunk. I have been a caster for NGS. I've been writing for Division A for NGS. I also play in Division B for NGS, and I've been playing Heroes of the Storm since the Karazim patch. I think right now, my favorite hero always is Brightwing, but she sucks in the meta right now. So right now, I enjoy playing stuff like, Blaze and Sonya. I was the offlaner for my team in NGS. I think I'm going to be switching it around for next season. But other than that, I don't really have any kind of role preference. I will play basically anything, and I'm just really into heroes in general. I tend to watch HGC all the time, and I'm super excited about the podcast, and this is going to be a lot of fun.
All right, let's throw it over to my compadre, my commander for season number 4, Murda.
What's up, guys?
Hey,
Storm
buddy.
fans, NGS enthusiasts. I'm Murda. Thanks for having me on the podcast, you guys. Very excited to be doing this with you. And let me tell you a bit about myself. So I've been with NGS since season 2. Since last season, I've been a moderator. This past, I was the heroic division moderator. I also do casting, and I'm on the social media team as well. So I help out with the Twitter, the Reddit stuff. If you ever see posts around there, that comes from the social media team that I'm a part of. Most importantly, though, I've been the founder and captain of Regen, and we participated in NGS in season 2, and very happy to have played this past season with Professor Bobo. So I have a little extra insight on you, man. I know a little thing or two about you that I didn't know back in season 3.
I think you know too much, actually. They may, if we cross the line, Murda will be the first person to go, just because, again, I'm trying to live my life off the grid, and this dude is all up in my business. All right, so that does it for our hosts, and we're just going to move on really quickly here. Let's touch on what the table of contents is going to be for podcast number 1. The topics that we will touch on today, we're going to start off with a little bit of just general Heroes talk. We're going to touch on what is going on in the PTR and what is upcoming, as the PTR patch will officially drop next week. So we'll touch on Yrel, the newest addition to the Heroes roster. We'll touch on Alterac Pass, as it were, the new map. Picked up a couple games on the PTR. It's an interesting map, a gorgeous map, a welcome addition, but at the same time, some issues. It's going to play out a little differently, and we'll each provide our own insights into how we feel about Alterac Pass as is currently constructed, and we will get into the patch notes. Some of the items in the patch have gone live, including bug fixes, as well as changes to a number of different heroes. Some things will come out with the full release of the patch next week as well. In segment number 2, we'll get a little bit of HGC talk going on. It is the morning of the opening of MSB. Quite a few matches have gone on already, as we will push further into the week and try to get the group stages going. We'll throw out some predictions, hopefully pepper in a couple of hot takes as well. And finally, with the HGC talk, we'll touch on some of the roster swaps, specifically as they impact MSB. Anticipate that in the future, particularly when the next phase for HGC starts, we will go deeper into the off-season shenanigans and what's been going on for both NA, EU, and a little bit of our Eastern counterparts as well. And then in segment 3, for the NGS fam, we are going to get into playoffs. We'll touch on what has been going on div by div. We'll go from D all the way up through Heroic. Show a little bit, paint a bright spotlight, hopefully, on the upsets this season, as this is the first season in which NGS has expanded the playoffs from 4 to 8 teams, and consequently, guys, we've seen a lot of upsets. Every division, with the exception of Heroic, I think, has gone not according to plan. And I do believe we'll each have our own little touches. ghostDunk is a writer for Division A. Murda has done a ton of casting for C and D. Myself, I've been focused a lot on B and been fortunate enough to do some Heroic games as well. And after that, we'll just touch on a couple shoutouts, let you guys know what is going on with NGS in the future, what to expect not just from the pod, but from the league in general. All right, and with that, let's go ahead and get started with our Heroes talk.
Okay, let's check out the new map here on the PTR, Alterac Pass. Everybody is super excited about this. We've got a map coming in from World of Warcraft. Everyone has a lot of excellent or painful memories about this battleground, I believe. I think I've heard stories of it lasting for like days at a time.
That's true.
So many days.
Absolutely true. And I do like how, and we'll get into this, I think this map is actually set up to be quite the opposite of the experience they're in. Wow, this is a fast, quick-paced map, for sure.
Yeah, I think it really hits the sweet spot for me as far as a Heroes of the Storm game, because you can't, if you go in and you kill one keep and you try to go onto the general, which, by the way, core has been replaced by a general, which will attack you. I think it's similar to what happened in Alterac Valley. But you go in and you only kill one keep. It's really hard to kill that general at an early level. So it's not incredibly snowbally, but once you get that second keep, that general's really open. You can also kite him out a lot towards your team, and so it's a little bit easier to start fighting towards the end. But a lot of people were worried that this map was just going to take forever because of the keep armor.
No, it's fast.
I've
picked up a couple. I've picked up a couple games on this map, and so just again the general overview for everybody. It's a 3-lane map. I actually think it plays out quite similarly to it's sort of a combo between like Cursed Hollow and Tomb, in some different ways. So the objective on this map is point control, and it will occur either in between top mid or mid bot. And the objective phase can go on for quite a while. And one thing that makes Alterac a little unique is that there's a lot of different geometry going on in this map. There's a few impassable points. There's some odd angles. It seems a little asymmetrical in the jungle as well.
And of course, those mud pits, Bobo.
The mud pit. And again, there are always these small little tiny wrinkles and these opportunities to make plays and some different types of choke points. I love, especially the artwork on this map. The bridge in the center makes the middle lane unlike, I believe, any other mid lane in the suite of maps that are currently available here in Heroes. But once the objective is captured, and this is where the map starts to sort of break itself a little bit. When you capture the objective, each lane will be buoyed by a cavalry unit that will help push with you. And I don't know about you guys, but I've found that the early game push can be 5-manned and actually has the opportunity to take a keep. Probably on the first objective.
You get that attack speed and the movement speed.
Crazy fast.
It's insane amount of damage.
It's a 25% boost. And there's two ways. I've seen two ways to play this. You can spread out, let the defending team sort of pick where do they want to defend. But if you leave any sort of carry hero, any sort of auto attacker alone with that cavalry push, structures are gone within 10 to 15 seconds.
Oh yeah, even a bad auto attacker. I remember I played one game. I was Abathur, and it was against an AI, and we got the objective, and I just walked the slug up to the keep in the towers, and I just actually felt.
You actually pulled the bag with the slug. Oh my god! But it does again. It can wind up going fast. It feels like it has the opportunity to be snowballing. I think there is one of the anticipated changes is that the push will be reduced maybe a little early, and then the throw pits at the end they need to be worked out. And one or two people have talked about this on I've seen it on Heroes Hearth and Reddit. It seems to be the community consensus is that the generals themselves need to be buffed. And the other side of it is that their behaviors seem to be a little out of line with what the goal was. They're much too easily pulled into the lanes and out of the throw pit.
Yeah, those generals represented by Drekthar, the mentor to Thrall, and the elder shaman of the Frostwolves, and of course Vandar Stormpike, the fierce dwarf warrior and leader of Alterac Valley Stormpike Expedition, as represented in Alterac Valley back in WoW. But you have these situations now where you're fighting up against these really behemoth generals. They're so imposing on the battleground. The art team did such a great job with this map, not only with the generals, but also with all the little details with the snowy environment they created here. But right now, I do agree, Bobo. Those generals just don't feel quite strong enough on the PTR. I'm expecting a bit of a buff to come in with them when we see this launched later this week on Tuesday.
Absolutely. And again, a couple of little fixes there for the behaviors.
I think the HP is just fine. I think it just needs to be stronger. If you're a team and you sit there and you pull the thing out, you need to be punished for the tank taking all that damage from the general.
And because it's a push map, again, the objective kind of similar to what you'll see on Tomb. If you can get push in two different lanes when you approach the core, I don't think you can defend. And that's something to really keep an eye on when this game launches. If you have the opportunity to push, again, with two lanes, if you've got two keeps down, go for it. If you have one keep down and strong push in that specific lane, go for it. Because until they fix it and rebalance what's going on with the core, and again, the way that the objective winds up pushing, it just seems like it's a very easy game to end. And the other point is, what do you guys specifically think about the opportunities to cheese on this map?
I don't think there are too many, actually. I think the fact that the general regenerates is going to stop a whole lot of cheese. The cheese is going to be limited to cheesing, I think, like keeps, basically. If you've got a split push going, or if, you've got like some crazy medevac thing planned, or just a Zarya push comp, or some, any one of those cheeses, I think that all they're going to be able to do is get a keep, and then you do have to win an objective, and you do have to push in as 5 onto that general. Winions are not going to win this map, so it kind of makes it a weird cross between like normal map and like Towers of Doom.
Right. There's an opportunity to push asymmetrically. What we mean, because the objective will only take place in one of the two sort of jungle points, you do have an opportunity to cross the map, maybe pick up a boss. There are 2 bosses on this map, and try to do some different things. So it's not a straightforward map for the objective phase. We encourage you guys to try to play around a little bit, but do keep an eye out when the PTR patch gets pushed to live. Are there changes to Alterac Pass?
And because I think in its current iteration, and you look at maps that have come out recently, like Volskaya Foundry, where really teams have a hard time winning that map without getting the Triglav Protector. I think you're going to see a lot of the same here on Alterac Pass, where if you're not winning those objectives, how difficult is it for your team to then have a win condition to win that map? Because without those cavalry units we talked about, how really do you push down these keeps? It's not that easy in its current iteration.
Right on. The other important and momentous occasion worthy of celebration here with the PTR is the release of our newest hero. Finally, the addition of a brand new tank, and that is Yrel, the Draenei hero from WoW. Listen, you got to bring in a blueberry, man.
Been calling for it.
Apparently,
and a paladin.
And the paladin as well, although the retribution paladin debate's been kind of cute. Yrel, in my opinion, is a tank, and we'll get into this right now. There's a meta build that has come out of the PTR. It certainly seems like the strongest build. Murda, touch on it, baby. What is going on with Yrel? Where do we see this hero being built on release?
All right, so Light of Karabor at level 1 seems to be the go-to right now. It's going to give you that radius increase on your Q, as well as give you extra healing. So a lot of people are using that to gain that extra bit of sustain, that if you're a tank or if you just want to keep yourself alive that much longer, maybe it's also in the solo lane you can do this. It's probably going to be your go-to talent 90% of the time. Gift of the Naru at level 4.
Yeah, this is the crux of the build right here. She really gets going at 4.
Yeah, so it's going to heal your teammates for 400, and I've heard that people are saying you could set up a no support comp with this hero doing this, that it's almost like having an Abathur sort of healer with you.
It scales really nicely. It's as you approach level 20, it starts moving closer and closer to a 1,000 HP heal, and once we get into her 13-16 talent spike, you'll see where Gift of the Naru starts to kind of explode. But it's a hero that is incredibly difficult to kill, and with Gift of the Naru, it provides her with the opportunity to play as a tank that can bust up engagements really well. If you see a target being focused, she does have enough mobility to kind of slide over there and prevent that death from coming through. On to level 7.
So level 7, this is where it gets crazy, because now Yrel becomes practically unkillable and you cannot escape her grasp, because Divine Steed at level 7 grants you 80% movement speed and an instant mount. How do you stop that? If you're in the bottom lane, Yrel now is the perfect ganker coming down from mid. If you are trying to kill Yrel, all she has to do is leap away and hop on her steed and she's back to safety. So much utility here, and it's an instant mount. That's the thing that people don't talk about, is you are on your mount instantly and get bonus speed, Bobo.
So it's 80% movement speed, decays over 3 seconds. Because there is a low cooldown on your mount in general, it is something that you can use in combat. It's broken, and the talents on those tiers sort of focus on Yrel's mobility, but Divine Steed seems to be the one that is shining. Keep an eye on that. Again, when the PTR drops, there is a bit of an anticipation that 80% movement speed is going to get reduced, or maybe the decay comes in faster. Because of the way that her movement abilities are on a wind-up, and because they reduce her movement speed by 25%, Divine Steed helps make up for that in the team fight. So you're going to see a lot of Yrel suddenly pop up on a horse and chase you down. I like that talent a lot.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's also another knob that developers can turn. Like for Yrel, I think the biggest thing with her is that she feels super clunky outside of this talent. Like, if you cast any of her abilities, all of a sudden you're slowed by 25%. And it just, a lot of people have been complaining that it just feels bad. With Divine Steed, it completely changes that. You can now mount up and start and engage. Like, you don't have to E into and engage, which is really difficult. You can simply mount up and go in. You can mount up and dodge skill shots. You can mount up and run away.
She's one of the first sort of high skill cap tanks that we have in the game. And she requires a lot of emphasis on the decision making, on when to use your trait, when your abilities are going to get the maximum amount of value. And Divine Steed just, again, it kind of makes up for the reduction of her movement speed as well as the channel and sort of warm up on each of her basic abilities. Level 10, interesting set of choices. Ardent Defender and Sacred Ground. So I can see places for both of these heroics, but do you guys have one that you specifically favor?
I played around a bit with Sacred Ground. I thought it was cool. I think it's a lot of fun on maps like Volskaya Foundry, Infernal Shrine, stuff that you're fighting over a point. I think it's going to be amazing. Maybe even we see it on Brax's Holdout. You can throw it practically in the entire lane on that map. But I think the go-to currently, the pros and the consensus is Ardent Defender at the moment. You're going to put yourself in a barrier for 3 seconds, absorb all the damage, and heal for 50% of that damage. So again, it goes along with our level 1 pick, our level 4 pick. It's just that extra bit of healing that Yrel wants to use with this tank build to stay alive.
13-16 is where Yrel really starts to power spike. It starts with Aldor Peacekeeper at level 13, where you are starting to actually mitigate damage through the use of Vindication. At 16, this is where she absolutely blows up, and all of a sudden you can start to see an insane amount of healing being procced with Divine Favor. Casting a basic ability reduces the cooldown of Divine Purpose by 2 seconds. So when you combine Divine Favor with Gift of the Naru at level 4, you are going to start dropping, at level 16, I think it's about 700 to 800 HP heals. And because of the cooldown reduction, you're probably proccing them every 5 to 6 seconds. And with practice, we'll see if you guys can get a little bit better at that and try to pump more heals out. Her 20 talents are solid. I actually enjoy both of the heroic upgrades. Murda, I know you're a big fan of Seraphim with the ability to become unstoppable on a super low cooldown.
Always my favorite to not be stopped by anyone.
Let's talk about, I think it's 20% uptime on an unstoppable.
Yeah, so I mean, Indomitable on Garrosh, step aside. This is Seraphim on Yrel. I think it's a huge level 20 talent that, especially late game when kills are so important, and you pair it with Divine Steed. Like now you have two things that are like you cannot kill Yrel. She will always be alive late game.
There's a bit of a space right now in the meta where after the support changes and after the sort of quasi-elimination of double support comps, you do see them occasionally pop into play here. Yrel is sort of the inverse of Uther, where Uther is a tanky support. Yrel is a supporty tank. And I got to ask you guys, where do you think she's going to fit in NGS? And then even in the broader, do you see a place for her on the ladder on release?
I think she's going to be a main tank if she's played at all. I think there's place in the meta for her as an offlaner / bruiser. There could be an offlane build in here hidden someplace.
It's really hidden though. Like, do you think she doesn't? There's no wave clear on this hero, and there's really no kill threat. I feel like it's just a simple case.
Okay.
Is it okay?
It's okay. It's okay enough that you can draft her as an offlaner in maps like Infernal Shrines or Battlefield of Eternity.
I mean, you guys are both offlane players,
right? I mean, it's the sustain that really matters. Her wave clear is okay, but her sustain is really fantastic. Like she just keeps casting her Vindication, and she sustains in lane. If you do something like Murad's Insight, you can do things like get early camps. Is something a lot of people have noticed. And the other build that really speaks to me for her not being a main tank is her Avenger build.
Oh, the E build.
Yeah, you go a Holy Avenger at 7 instead of Divine Steed, and then you go Repentance, and you basically have I think it's a 2.5 second, 75%. It's a 1.5 second, 75% slow, and you've got 2 of them because you just simply E in, and that reduces. It's on a 1 second cooldown. You hit D and then E again, and then just people are just permaslowed for 3 full seconds at 75%, and it's really good. And I've heard a lot of people at high levels talking about that.
It's a neat build because it turns a hero that in her base kit is slow, is sort of plodding, and is a zone control type hero. Again, she wants to stand on a point and make sure that you shall not pass in this area. And then if you do wind up building into the E, she actually has a bit of a ping pong. The key, as you said, was at level 7, you take Holy Avenger, hitting an enemy hero with Avenging Wrath at maximum charge reduces the cooldown to 1 second. That's kind of, again, it's an interesting build. It takes away from her sustain and her ability to support her teammates, but it does certainly make her independent and a backline nag.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. But I think, if we're talking about sustain, I will have to point out that before anyone notices, it is Naru. The pronunciation of that, but
Is it really?
yeah. Divine Favor though at 16, I think no talent even comes close to competing with that.
Mm-hmm.
The other thing is I think Sacred Ground on maps like Volskaya or any kind of point control map, it is going to be crazy good. Especially paired with another hero like maybe an Uther that can give her extra armor on that thing. It's like having like not a hardened shield, but like just a mini hardened shield, like the entire time that you're fighting in that point.
Right on. Again, we're excited to see Yrel enter the Heroes of the Storm hero library. Again, there does seem to be 2 builds. The main meta build where if you're looking to go, again, into a tank, look for Gift of the Naru at level 4. I'm just going to mess with you on this one. Go with Gift of the Naru on level 4 and then Divine Favor on 16 and look for the late game heals. And if you're looking for something a little different, if you want to try to add some mobility to the hero, if you're looking for someone who can jump onto the backline and cause all kinds of problems, just build into the E as the upgrades to Avenging Wrath. Again, give Yrel a little bit of a ping-pong-like feel to her. A lot of other things came into... A lot of other things here in this PTR patch. There are a few things that we're going to talk about. The first item on our list will be the armor remover from heroes. This affects Arthas and Nubarak, Johanna. Is there anybody in there that I missed? Cassia as well had some armor changes. And this was a point that the devs made in the notes on the patch where they just wanted to remove the existence of generic armor. They felt like it wound up causing some balance issues, and it also may post-balance changes to the PTR patch, because again, after 2 weeks, they'll go ahead and try to get some data and see where these heroes stand and whether they need to be buffed or not. It's going to turn some of these heroes into more of a generalist feel. Johanna is really interesting. I think Johanna here in NGS in the playoffs has probably been, the second most played tank?
Absolutely. So many teams love it.
I think her involvement is just right behind Garrosh when you factor in the ban rates as well. Garrosh is still seeing plenty of first pick bans. So the Johanna changes, again, it'll be after the season heading into season 5. That's going to be a big issue. Arthas changes as well, as both of those heroes lost physical armor. Arthas changes.
Arthas is well out of the meta though. Like I think, in NGS, I think you see him a lot more often, because those roots can be really great and just running it down on people. Feels good, but I don't think it's going to be such a big deal for Arthas.
I'm hearing such mixed reactions to all these armor changes. A lot of players that are tanks are saying, "Oh, I actually like my favorite hero, whoever it might be out of this group, better now after the armor changes." Maybe it's a Nubarak who struggled so heavily against auto attack builds, but now has a bit more flexibility up against those types of heroes and has really, I think, become more of a dominant force with that added HP, as well as having the armor now gated behind her W talent. So a bit different play style, but some players like it. So we'll see how it works out. Is it actually going to end up being better or not?
I would say keep an eye on the Nubarak changes. For him, especially, that is the one tank I think we will see move up in the meta. Again, the reaction has been mixed, but the issue with the Nubarak is that the way that his baseline armor worked, he was taken less for his strengths and taken more just because he had spell armor. And that's not, in my opinion, how the hero is meant to be played. The way that it works now, he will have spell armor when his shield, expires on his W. It will active on the W, and it may be a little bit of overlap too there. We'll try to queue that up. But a Nubarak was always meant to be an offensive hero that is built into the combo on his CC. But again, the way that the baseline spell armor was just always sort of available, it was just seen, all right, they went first pick mage. They're all in on ability damage. Just pick a Nubarak and he'll be safe. And now with a little bit of extra HP, he'll be able to survive maybe 2 to 3 more auto attacks, right? Or maybe just a little bit more physical damage from a hero such as Maiev as well. And we've seen it in the past. When you move the hit point meter on heroes, it can move them drastically up or down in the meta. The example that comes to mind for me is the fact that Lucio, whenever he receives above 5% HP, give or take, he either seems to move into S tier or never picked. And we'll see how that affects Anubarak as well.
Yeah, I think with the Anubarak too, you have to remember he's still going to be picked as a anti-mage tank because Nerubian armor actually stacks with his W now.
Yeah, you can get up to 75 spell armor.
Yeah, it's absolutely insane. But I think the changes are not uniform across the board in the way that they've handled this. So I think Anubarak is in a great spot now. And you were seeing Anubarak in play before this change came out. I think Genji played them today, actually, in HGC, and that's before this patch.
Absolutely.
But a hero like Johanna, though, I think is really going to, not really, but, maybe a 5% drop in her survivability or a 10% drop in her survivability.
It's going to cause more care for a hero like Johanna. And what's going to separate the players who are going to still play Johanna effectively, I think, is going to be the proper use of the blind. And that's one thing to keep an eye out. Again, if you are throwing out Johanna's blind almost on cooldown just to try to get some effect, you're going to actually wind up taking more damage in the long run. It's got to be a little bit more targeted. That ability now sort of becomes the crux of her kit. Again, there are no changes to condemn. There's no changes to punish either. So, keep an eye on again, the effective use of the blinds to help make up for the loss of her physical armor.
You're still drafting her for a bit of wave clear, though. So
right. And that aspect won't change.
Right. Because those comps where you need the wave clear, maybe you drafted something like a Maiev who actually benefits a lot from having Johanna on the team, but you just need that little bit extra wave clear because she's messing around trying to kill heroes so much. Maybe you still draft your Johanna. I think she still has a place. I don't think, when you have Iron Skin as your trait, she's always going to be one of the tanks that you're going to want to draft. It's just so hard to kill her at times, and when you need that survivability again added with the wave clear, that's why heroes or players are going to be drafting that hero.
Agree.
Yeah, you really can't kill Johanna with her trade up.
Absolutely. And while it maybe forces her sort of out of the niche of AA heroes, while it may force her out of the niche of being the anti-AA tank, whenever you do see Johanna in draft, you will almost immediately be afraid of the likes of Kael'thas and Gul'dan, and hopefully these changes help alleviate that pressure. Next piece of the patch notes, and this might even be the biggest one, XP changes on towers. Towers now giving less XP, forts now giving more, hopefully to try to alleviate some of the snowball complaints that we've had recently, as a lot of these maps seem to be playing out very, very fast.
Bobo, I love this. It's the fort towers. It's on maps we've seen Volskaya Foundry, True God Protector gets picked up, right? The meta currently is mid, take out towers, walk up to top, take out towers, and you were getting a full 2,000 experience from that.
And it set you up. It set you up so well. Like we talked about the Volskaya shuffle a little bit. If you can capture that first objective, it sets you up for the second very well because you do not have to apply pressure to your opponents. You can simply wind up taking out again both towers, maybe the wall there in mid, and then shift up top, take 2 more towers out. Maybe if you get lucky and you're successful, you actually can wind up picking up a well or two. But what this winds up doing in terms of the XP is it puts you in a place where you are going to get to level 10 well before your opponents. And oftentimes, if you pick up the first protector there on Volskaya, you are in a position where when the second objective pops, you are sitting at level 10, your opponents are sitting at level 8, and it becomes a very difficult map to play because there is a limited amount of counterplay. And again, hopefully the changes here alleviate a lot of that early snowball pressure.
Yeah, if you can get 10 before your opponent, and it usually will happen before the second objective, you can basically snowball the game. This really prevents that by taking away that tower XP, and I like it because it allows you to lose the first objective but still feel like you have a stake in the game. But it also doesn't mean that you can just give up the first objective and keep pushing, because if you push, all you're going to get is the meager tower experience as well. And I think this is going to be a much bigger change to the game than people realize.
Absolutely, and it's a big change to the late game heroes that have fallen out of favor. Because a lot of this meta has been built around the early game, and that has fed into heroes such as Garrosh. It's fed into Malfurion as well, and Stukov, some of the supports there with this incredibly powerful early game CC, so that you can wind up picking up a couple kills, take the first objective or two, and really push. But again, if we're talking about evening out that early game XP, despite whatever's going on in the map. So hopefully you can't be snowballed. Hopefully you find yourself not losing a fort pre-10 and then having to deal with a win condition from maybe level 13 on. And this can hopefully bring a little bit of a boost to those late game heroes. Maybe some of the sort of split soak strategies also come into play more as well. We'll see how these wind up playing out over the next couple weeks. Anything else here that you guys are keeping an eye on from these PTR patch notes? There were changes to Zagara.
I do want to shout out Zagara. I think Zag is back.
Oh, this is gonna be
She's
gross.
back.
Oh,
She's absolutely back.
The cancer is real.
Yeah, she's always an option teams are going to be able to have if you're feeling like you're having a tough time in the solo lane, if you need some more push, if you want to get some more structures down. Like, Zag is always a curveball that you can throw at your opponent now. Like, her win rate has gone up in ladder a whole lot.
I think it's 7% win rate gain in just a few days.
Yeah.
I think she's at the top of the win rate charts, actually.
Yeah, we ran her in Team League. She feels really good right now and just really annoying like she was. And, like, that scaling into late game, like, makes her matter.
Yes. The scaling, just to go over a little bit of the changes, she's a little bit weaker in the early game, particularly with the Hydralisk. But the way that the scaling works now is it catches up to where she previously was at level 8 and then pushes her into a better late game place. So typically what was happening with Zagara, if you have either played the hero or have been going up against her, she is a hero that you pick to bully the solo lane, win the race to 10, and then use Nidus as a way to control the map against your opponents. But what these changes do is they actually remove a little bit of the pushing power from the early game. She's still an incredibly effective hero because of her range, because of her ability to do constant ticks of damage against what are the meta offlaners right now. But again, once we start getting into late game, she can't be ignored anymore. The Hydralisk is doing more damage. Her auto attacks are doing a lot more damage. So she's no longer a liability. She is no longer in a place where if you pick Zagara, right now you are committing yourself and your team to winning the game very early and very fast. And again, these changes are definitely going to help steer that in quite the opposite direction, where Zagara now, maybe not being a top-tier hero towards the end of the game, but is certainly not someone that you can just sort of wildly ignore.
And most notably, she's going to be able to bring that little bit extra into team fights, which is something she's been lacking tremendously over the course of her existence. Having this little bit of scaling added to her kit is going to definitely help in those later game team fights around objectives. Maybe it is in Infernal Shrines, and she's pretty decent at clearing out the pit. Maybe she's in there getting an extra bit of damage with her Hunter Killer onto something like Tracer chasing her. You know, it's like so many different little things that she can now do in that team fight that I think is going to help. Not only that, but she also got a bit of damage increase onto her Devouring Maw, if that's the option teams want to go.
I think it should be. I think Maw should 100% make a comeback, especially on smaller maps.
All right, next segment, we're going to be talking about the Heroes Global Championship Series, and right now they are in the Mid-Season Brawl out in Stockholm, Sweden, and we have 12 of the best teams from around the globe participating for a grand prize. First place wins $100,000 and right now we see them in the group stage. Today was the first morning of the action. We have Group A with Genji or Genji. I don't know how teams or people are wanting to pronounce this name quite yet, but I think I hear the casters calling it Genji.
Yeah, I don't think anybody wants to say Genji anymore for Hot.
Also in Group A is Fnatic, Tempo Storm, The One, Ballistics, and Mind Freak. Over in Group B, we have Tempest, Heroes Hearth Esports, Team Dignitas, CE, Method, and Luna Meow. Action, again, kicked off today. We saw a few matches be played this morning. I know Heroes Hearth got it started off up against Luna Meow, took the 2-0, and they represent. Later on, we saw a huge battle between Tempest and Team Dignitas, with the Koreans, the number 3 seed out of Korea, taking a 2-0 victory over Team Dignitas, which is leaving a big opening now in this division, as only 2 teams from each group will move on to the winners bracket. The other 2 will drop down into the lower bracket, and the bottom 2 from each group are eliminated from the tournament. Group stage ends on June 13th, and the event runs all the way up until the 19th, when we'll see our grand finals take place on the big stage.
Right on.
What are your thoughts so far with these group stages, ghostDunk? Looking over at Group A, which a lot of people are considering the group of death, with a stronger forces, with the Gen G, you have Ballistics there, you have Tempo Storm, Fnatic, so many big names in the Heroes of the Storm HGC scene. How do you see this group unfolding as the next few days go on?
I actually think that Group A and Group B, like, although I guess that if they're calling it the group of death, Group A might be stronger, but I feel like both of these groups are kind of the same as far as looking at this, in that it's going to be all based on how the Chinese teams play. The Mind Freak and I think Luna Meow, like Mind Freak is getting just demolished by Fnatic right now. I'm seeing it on my other screen at the moment. And it's going to be rough for either of them to really make it out of here. So it really depends on whether the 1 and CE in their respective groups can make things happen. Otherwise, it's just going to be EU, NA, and China, and Korea.
Yeah.
Unfortunately for the 1, they played against Gen G this morning and got 0-2. But I mean, you're talking about Rich and company coming in your first game. That's pretty tough to play against.
We don't really get a sense of how the 1 is actually playing from losing to them. So
and just a quick refresher: the group stages are going to mirror what we do here in NGS, as they will be best of 2s, and that is something that usually plays into the underdog's favor. If you can wind up stealing a map here or there, you can slide up the standings and really force a bottleneck in terms of who is going to make it to the winners bracket. I actually am of the opinion that Group B is going to be the more difficult right now. CE is a team that has been to these internationals far more often than the 1. And I've also got my eye on Method in this. And the one big piece that we can take from this morning is that Tempest demolished Dignitas in the first game that they played. In the second game on BOE, Dig had a 2-keep to no fort advantage and wind up losing on BOE. So Dignitas, the early favorite to come out of this group, is already a loss down, and there's opportunities for teams to slide up. All right, and now, as we wrap this segment out, let's get some predictions from you guys. Where do you think there is going to be a shakeup here in the way that these groups are going to play out before we move on to the winners bracket? Any hot takes, boys?
Let's look at Group A first. Obviously, we haven't seen too much. Currently, Gen G at the top with 3 points. We see Fnatic right now playing. Looks like they're going to pick up 3 here against Mind Freaks. But Group A, the big story is 2 teams from Korea. Group B only has 1. Korea has been the unstoppable forces in the global environment when these events happen. I think anytime you have Gen G and Ballistics in the same group, you have to consider them easy favorites to move on in the winners bracket. So they're my 2 picks for the number 1 and 2 seed coming out of Group A.
I don't disagree with you there. There's a lot of issues going on here in Group A that are, again, a little bit behind the scenes, and we don't know where things are going to shake out. And one is the fact that Fnatic are playing their last tournament with Quackness as captain and shot caller. Bad Benny will be moving on after MSB as well. So, what do you expect from a team that is about to make massive roster changes, is losing sort of the focal point and the most popular face of their team in Fnatic? And then we haven't even touched on it yet, but this is NA's number 1 team. This is Tempo Storm, cruised throughout the last HGC phase. But it's NA. If they drop a map to either the 1 or to Mind Freak, they're going to find themselves maybe in, that 4th spot, and in a spot where they are staring at the winners of Group B. But where do you guys see Tempo faring? And do you see anything other than the two Korean teams at the top of Group A?
I think Korea's here to play. I think Tempest destroying Dignitas there in that group stage definitely bodes well for Genji and Ballistics. I think they're going to be at the top. I don't think Tempo Storm's going to really drop too much. I think Tempo Storm is looking more polished than they've ever been. So I can't imagine that the One and Mind Freak are going to make it out of groups.
My prediction, you got Genji number 1, Ballistics number 2, Fnatic 3, Tempo 4. Tempo, if they can take a game off of either of these Korean teams, might bump them to that number 3 spot, but I think Fnatic is still going to take that series up against Tempo Storm. They're always showing up in events. They're a very experienced team. Although Tempo has made a lot of events recently, they've played well in them. But I think Fnatic's just the more experienced of the two in that matchup. So that'll make the difference between 3 and 4. But again, I think 1 and 2 are locked up. That's Korea. Really, it depends on how Tempo can play against Fnatic and if they end up dropping a map up against the One or Mind Freak.
I'm gonna go with a hot take here, just for the heck of it. The One beats Tempo Storm out for the last spot. That is a Tuesday matchup and one of the last matchups of Group A. Chinese teams in international tournaments are always fun to watch. Every region sort of always winds up bringing out their own flavor here at the international tournaments. They default a lot of the times to their comfort picks. So for Chinese teams, if you're not aware of what they do, it's typically hyper aggressive. They're going to eventually wind up breaking out things like hypercarry Greymane, hypercarry Vala. They'll play the Illidan. There can be always tankless comps. There can be supportless comps. They're willing to try anything. And Tempo has to run through the gamut of, again, the two Korean teams as well as Fnatic. So just for the heck of it, let's go for it. Bobo's saying the One winds up beating Tempo out for the last place in Group A.
And you might not be too far off because
hey, why not?
If you know a team named SPT, they've made a lot of these events in the past, playing in Eastern Clash and back at BlizzCon and Mid-Season Brawl this season before. The One is the team that knocked them out of making it here to the Mid-Season Brawl. So they're obviously good in their own home meta, in that Chinese meta, but can they translate that here in this group stage of the Mid-Season Brawl?
Right on. I agree. Group B, thoughts on this one is, again, Tempest and Heroes are sitting at the top of the standings after just a few of the first early games.
Yeah, I think Tempest looks really strong right now. I think Tempest is easily going to get this first space. And I actually think Dignitas, despite dropping to Tempest, I think that just shows how good Tempest is and not how bad Dignitas is. I predict Dignitas is just going to win out the rest of the games.
All right. Murda, thoughts on Group B?
It's a hot take, but I got a hotter one.
I know exactly where you're going. Go.
It's you already know. My boy Crowan is about to flex on some fools. Really, we already touched on it. The match on Monday against Dig, that's going to be your deciding game. If you're not watching that one, you're not watching the Mid-Season Brawl group stage. You have to watch that match. Whoever wins it, I think will get the number 2 spot. I 100% agree with ghostDunk. Tempest is your number 1. And if you recap, now I have all the Korean teams in the 1 or 2 slot moving on to the winner's bracket.
Which is expected.
Right. And then to round out Group B, obviously Dig's in the picture. We don't know about CE. We haven't seen them play yet, but they're one of these perennial teams that's been in these events so often. And of course we have Method, who they can come out and really play. I know this isn't expert of last year, but this is still a very solid Method team that can't be pushed aside.
And I'm going to go for it. Method finishes number 2 in Group B. I think they ride Schwimpy, as this is the last time he will be playing with Method before he moves back to Fnatic. This is a team that has a different hero pool. When you watch Method, keep an eye on Ethereal Angel. Maybe he jumps over and plays a whole bunch of Zeratul. Maybe we get a lot of Schwimpy on Tracer. I was a big expert fan going into last season. I think Method struggled early on here in HGC, and they seem to pick up a little bit of momentum. And again, well, why not? We'll throw the hot take out there. Schwimpy and the boys finishing second in Group B.
So let's talk about, we've touched on Group A, Group B. Let's talk about who we think is going to win this event based off of what we know throughout Phase 1 and these teams.
I think it's Korea versus Korea.
Yeah.
I think the lull that Dig had at the end of HGC, at the end of the HGC season, is going to plague them here in this tournament. I don't think they're going to find their footing. The meta has changed drastically. Again, we've seen it here, not just on the ladder, not just in NGS, but I do believe we're going to see it here internationally at MSB. There are going to be some heroes that we find are going to be more powerful than others, and then teams eventually will fall back to their comforts later on in the tournament. I just don't see enough strength on Fnatic, or, again, based on the early returns from Dignitas, to knock off maybe any of the 3 Korean teams here.
Yeah, I mean, it all depends on how Dignitas is playing these group stages. You see a lot, people in the group stages, they look super weak going into the tournament, and they just go on a tear as, in the brackets. And it all depends on whether Dignitas, if they do get top 2 and can make it to the winner's bracket, or if they can, use the momentum from the lower bracket to make their way up. So I think they've still got a shot at it, but Korea looks so strong right now.
Murda?
I 100% agree. Finals, depending on how that bracket ends up shaking, I'm going to say Gen G is going to move through the upper bracket finals. They'll be the champions in the upper bracket, and they're going to face off against Ballistics in the grand finals, and I think I'm going to give it to Rich and the boys to take this one.
They've looked good. They struggled a little bit early in the season, picked it up. I think Gen G is not just a popular pick, the assumed pick. We'll see how this all shakes out over the course of the next 10 days. All right. Well, that wraps it up for our talk on MSB, and now we're going to transfer ourselves right on over to the NGS Season 4 playoffs. The big one, boys.
All right, so in this next segment, it's exactly what you guys came here to listen to, all you NGS fans. We're going to start talking about these NGS playoffs going on right now. We're going to kick it off with Division D. Over in the West, We Like Turtles advancing to the D West Finals with a forfeit from Position 1 GG. Then we saw Dat Tasto take a 2-1 victory over Team No Damage. They dropped Game 1 on Infernal Shrines, but they ended up winning the next 2. All 3 they faced against Phoenix comps.
Yeah.
But they got the job done and made it work.
Dat Tasto has been the surprise of the D playoffs. This is a team that was in, 7th place going into the tournament, and they've gone through both the 3 seed and the 2 seed.
Yeah, very hot right now. And in these Division D West finals, they're going to be up against the number 1 seed. So can they run the gauntlet? Can they knock out the 3, the 2, and the 1?
That'd be a hell of a run.
For me, Bobo, I think We Like Turtles is going to be a bit too much. But will this week off for We Like Turtles be a disruption for them, as they didn't get to play this past week? Did they get enough practice in? Or are they going to come in cold to these finals? We'll see, but I do have We Like Turtles winning 2-0 over Dat Tasto here in the finals, just like they did in Week 5 up against them as well.
I'm going to ride Dat Tasto to the finals. Let's go. I love it. 7 seed taking out the 3, the 2, and the 1 on their way to potentially victory. Why not? It's rootable.
Has Dat Task been playing pretty consistent compositions this whole tournament, or have they just been throwing out all sorts of different things?
I feel like they're playing some new stuff. I know they recently got some coaching. They've been working really hard at improving, and you can tell when they're beating teams like the number 2 and number 3.
Yeah.
But again, I just don't know. I think We Like Turtles has been really hot all season, and we've seen their performance, and we can let it speak for itself. I think the Turtles have it, but Dat Tasto is definitely hot and definitely something to look out for in the West.
I think there's always teams that whenever you get to the playoffs, they all of a sudden just turn it on and just ride it all the way to the end.
All right. What's happening on the east side of the bracket?
So, Div D East, we had the Wholesome Halfwits defeat the number 1 seed MHS Tigers. I think MHS ended up paying the price for benching B Maduho in this match, as the Halfwits took full advantage of that change and ended up winning a game that, quite frankly, they had no business winning. The Tigers have looked so good with their kind of off-meta comps and some of these unusual strategies. They've played plenty of Juice Pirates throughout the season, but they didn't have B-Med there, and I think maybe got a bit stagnant and too vanilla in the match and didn't end up taking that win over the Wholesome Halfwits. On the other half, we had Winky Face up against Lightly Salted. That's the number 3 versus number 2 team. 32-minute comeback victory on Battlefield of Eternity last night for Winky Face.
That is one of the longer BOE games I've ever heard of. Even the long BOE games, they just kind of end at about 20 to 25 minutes as the Immortal just winds up barreling down the lane. I don't think I've ever heard of a 30-minute BOE game here in NGS. That's ridiculous.
Absolutely insane. I caught the tail end of it.
Who had that broadcast?
Graves. I think it was Gravesville.
Graves been doing work in the playoffs there. Shout out to that guy.
Absolutely. But looking over to these Division D East finals, we're gonna have Winky Face up against the Wholesome Halfwits. These two teams had a draw in week 2, so pretty even. But I think I'm gonna pick Winky Face to win this one. I know this team has been around for quite some time in some form or another, and I think that experience will come into play here. So look for Winky Face to take it in 3.
Right on.
Awesome.
Moving on to Div C.
So over in the West, there were 2 upsets in the semifinals. First, we had Team Awesome Sauce, the number 4 seed, knocking out the number 1 seed Guys Gems. And Guys Gems were definitely favored. This is a team that has a lot of experience. They participated this past season in the Regen Invitational, the event that I put on with my organization, and actually knocked out Regen. So a bit of history with these guys. And I know they love playing their Cho'Gall, and Team Awesome Sauce, their key to victory is making sure they banned out that Cho'Gall. They even let Cody Kraz play as Tracer, Odin played as Johanna, and it didn't matter. Team Awesome Sauce won it even against that stuff. So smart to ban away Cho'Gall, took the 2-0, and they're moving on to those Division C West finals. Over in the other half, we had Rush B up against Massive Whiff, also a 2-0. Both wins were with a Lunara Kael'thas comp, and it looked absolutely dominant.
And that's one of the common threads you can find here in the playoffs, is that teams are going to find combinations of heroes, or maybe just one hero specifically that they're incredibly comfortable with. And Lunara is a hero that we've seen repeatedly throughout the playoffs. She's a very high priority range DPS. And as Murda said, Rush B riding her all the way to the, West Finals already.
Yeah, so... Oh, go ahead, but Ghost.
I would say, and anything with wave clear is going to do really well, especially in Division C. I think Lunara is just the total package as far as that's concerned.
She's a very even hero, does just about everything very well, and just based on her natural kit and the way that her poison works, she gives so many problems to just most supports right now that it's tough to deal with her. What's happening over on the east side of the bracket?
Before we move on, though, I want to give my prediction here for the C West Finals. I'm going to give my edge to Team Awesome Sauce. I think taking down Guys Gems was no easy task, so going up against a team that comes in at a lower seed like Rush B, I think Team Awesome Sauce, again, another really experienced team, I think can make that happen and move on to the Division C Grand Finals.
I was surprised they beat Guys Gems. Guys Gems is one of the most creative teams in all of NGS. They seem to have a backup to the backup to the backup strat.
So over in the East, during the semi-finals, we had Married with Children up against House of Ches, and Married with Children, as predicted, the number 1 seed, moving on with ease to the Division C East Finals. Over on the other half, Hand Banana and Buzz Kicks are yet to play this semi-final match. I do know they had a draw in week 3, but talking with some other captains around Division C, I think Hand Banana will be able to take this match, but I don't think they have enough to beat Married with Children in the finals. So look for Married with Children to be the Division C East representative moving on to the grand finals up against my predicted Team Awesome Sauce.
And Married with Children, a team that was around in different format last season. A couple players from Div B, a couple players from Div C. They have run, again, a different set of strategies. They play lower priority supports. They played a ton of Thrall, a ton of Nazebo. Not afraid to go into the Cho'Gall either. I'm a Hand Banana fan. Hi, fellas. Shout out to you guys. I hope they make it past Buzz Kicks. They're a fun team that has been utilizing the Medivh Lunara combo, so that's something to keep an eye on. If they continue to advance, are both of these teams, Married with Children, and again, if they advance, Hand Banana Buzz Kicks will dipping a number of different heroes in the hero pool. Are we still looking at Div C as a place where the comforts are winning out, or is it a case of the teams that come up with the more obtuse and ornate strategies making it all the way to the final? All right. Moving on. My favorite division, Division B. I've had a majority of my cast this season in B. Kind of happened organically. Have actually gotten to know a number of just great teams and great captains here. On the west side, right now, Divine 9 have booked their place in the West Finals, making it through Moto Miracle, as well as Roll 1 Esports. The other participant yet to be determined as Team Showboat will go up against Obscured. A shout out to Obscured for beating Subject to Change in their first round matchup.
Yeah, that was a good upset.
And a great win for Obscured, who seemed to scuffle a little bit there towards the middle and the end of the season, so they're finding their footing a little bit here in the playoffs. Divine 9, though, plays with that very specific style, and it seems to have served them well here in the playoffs. This is a team that is low damage. In fact, I think they were 11th in the division in terms of overall hero damage, but they are always efficient. I think they finished 3rd in KD. They run comps that are going to be very similar. They're going to rely on a number of flex heroes as well as a small but effective pool of ranged heroes. And they play for the long game.
Not afraid to play a double support either, Bobo.
Yeah.
No, they did throw that bad boy out there, as ghostDunk knows all too well.
Oh yeah.
Well, you did provoke them in the regular season.
Oh yeah, absolutely. But we made the mistake of picking a Genji Chromie first, and they're like, okay, we're just gonna double support, and you can't kill us. And that actually ended up being a really close game. It actually went to the late game, and late game started to favor us, but they were able to simply out macro us at the end, and we ended up in a core race. It was close.
And ghostDunk, you've gone up against all of the remaining teams here in B West. Where do you think the edge is going to go? With
I'd have to see how Team Showboat is playing lately compared to Divine 9. That's going to be a huge match. I actually think that's going to be the biggest match in Div B so far, because I really don't know, because Divine 9 has improved a lot. They haven't dropped the map except to us in the last 3 weeks. I heard. I've been seeing them play, and they're just really strong right now. However, Team Showboat, I will say during the regular season, they were the only team. On one hand, they were the only team that really gave us a huge problem. That we went up against them. It wasn't like, oh, we played bad or we did this thing. They were a clearly superior team, and they beat us straight up. But they did lose to some other teams in Division B later on. So maybe it's just sort of a hit or miss. Maybe they're just a little inconsistent.
And on the flip side of the bracket, Div B East is pure chaos. The 1 seed is gone, the 2 seed is gone, and the 3 seed is gone. Right now, HOTUS, the Heroes of the United States, have advanced to the East Finals. They're awaiting the winner of Gilly Shark and the Reapsville Gazette.
HOTUS looked good the other night. I had the privilege of getting to cast that match. The One Tricks coming in as the 8 seed. They knocked out the 1 seed in the opening round, but up against HOTUS, these Heroes of the United States looked very good and were able to take the 2-0. I got to cast that with Cat Peach. First time I had her on my stream. We had a great time, and it was really an exciting match. The One Tricks came to play, but HOTUS was just that much better.
And it did surprise quite a few people, because the One Tricks had the better result in the first round of the playoffs. They eliminated the 1 seed, a comfortably numb 2-0, quite convincingly at that. And again, HOTUS find themselves in a position where they are awaiting the winner of, again, Gilly Shark and the Reapsville Gazette. Both of those teams knocked out the 2 and the 3 seeds.
Upset Central.
It was just a wild set of games there in B East.
So I will say this, though. We scrimmed HOTUS, actually, a lot during the off season, and I'm not going to give anything away, but we're not surprised that they're doing this
really well. Is it do you feel like they just play a different style, or than the other teams, or is it just a case of maybe the meta fit them a little bit better here in the playoffs? What's going on with HOTUS? Why are they a top contender?
I think it's a combination of the meta fits them, and that it probably took them all season to bring themselves together as a team. And they're also taking it super seriously. So I know that they had strats specifically against the blue team that they were running before when we were scrimming them, and they just look like a really strong team, and they look like they're firing on all cylinders at this point. They're getting scouting in, they're getting scrims in, so it's just overall good. And we've also scrimmed Divine 9 too, so I think the key to winning Division B is to scrim Moto Miracle.
Just trying to get that practice in.
Yeah.
Good,
Guys,
good advertising.
before we leave Division B here, let's make some predictions. Who do we think is going to win the West? Who do we think is going to win the East? Who's going to win these grand finals?
I think we're expecting Divine 9 to pull it out, but again, I have actually not had an opportunity to cast Team Showboat. I did have Obscured earlier in the season. I'm going to leave this one to ghostDunk because you are the one who has had the opportunity to play all of the teams that are still involved in B West.
Right. I got to give it to Hodis. I think Hodis is going to go all the way. I think they can take out Gilly Shark. I think Divine 9 can beat Team Showboat at the moment. I think they've gotten stronger over the season. Team Showboat is a little inconsistent, and I think that's going to favor Divine 9 in a best of 3. And Hodis, if it is Hodis versus Divine 9, that's going to be a great match to watch. I think those two teams are going to be evenly matched, and I just got to give a slight edge to Hodis because I think Divine 9 has just a couple more chinks in their armor than Hodis.
I'm gonna take it in a little bit of a different direction. I'm gonna say that Gilly Shark comes out of B East, and I'll take Divine 9 in B West. I'm gonna say that Jason and the boys have enough left in the tank. I mean, I was able to broadcast their match against Roll 1 Esports. Roll 1 took a different route in trying to take away many of the comfort picks from Divine 9. Didn't matter. They took that 2-0. On the flip side, a shout out to Gilly Shark, who, I might have been matched up against an unranked against their 5-stack, and I might have seen what they were preparing for Totem Annihilation, but I had a chance to actually sit down and I watched that set. Totem Annihilation, a fantastic team, but they ran into a group in Gilly Shark that utilized Lunara, that hero popping up yet again. And over the course of the 2 games, they had a number of different standout players. In the first game, it was a pleasure, absolute pleasure to see Stark on Samuro for Gilly Shark. In the second game, Mr. Lard on his Dahaka making a huge impact in the early part of the game as they take the second map on Sky Temple. So I will go with D9 and Gilly Shark for the finals there in Div B.
Bobo, I'm going to make it quick. Book me one more ticket on this Divine 9 train.
Going for it.
I'm riding them all the way. They're going to take the championship here in the grand finals
Love
over
to see
Hodis.
Love to see it. And now we get to move on to Div A. Div A, the home base of the writer ghostDunk.
Yes.
Ghost, what's happening in Div A?
Oh, it's bedlam here in Division A. Thing has just gone absolutely insane. Just this, very much the same as Div B East. Things have gone absolutely bonkers, and except for a few cases, you have Dank Team. I really thought they had the momentum coming into this, and Ultimate Moshpit just crushed them.
Shout out to
that
Dankstrom.
game. Yeah, Dankstrom doing a good job. A Greek Economy, they look to be unstoppable. I think it was the first 12-0 record in NGS history.
I believe. Yeah.
Not even Amazing dropped the map last season, and they basically outclassed everybody in Division B last season. But A Greek Economy so far has Crisis Management took a map off them. UCF Death Knights almost beat A Greek Economy. It was so close. Like the Towers of Doom game, it was like 8-4 or something. Like it was or like 5-2. It was a very close game, and they dropped the second game. They won the first one, and had they won that Towers of Doom game, A Greek Economy would have been out. And then Average Joe's drops a 2-0 to heroic difficulty.
I don't think anybody saw that one coming.
Oh, I know. That game was insane. They got wrecked by Kel'Thuzad, and then they basically threw the second game. Like, I can't say it more politely than that.
It was a tough one. The 2 top teams from A East have struggled greatly here in the playoffs and have provided some very interesting opportunities. That set, A Greek Economy and UCF Death Knights, was a coin flip. And if anybody's looking for that one, go take a look at, I believe Snag had that game?
I think so.
I believe that was a Wednesday night set. Again, a total coin flip. A Greek Economy going through some changes here in the playoffs have yet to show the dominance that they had throughout the regular season.
Yeah, that was indeed a Snag game. But the other thing is, Game Freaks took a game over first pick Gazlo. Unfortunately, first pick Gazlo was not able to play their one of their regulars during that set, so it was unfortunate to see them lose that. And it's really tough for them to lose one of the regulars because I know, and look for the interview posted soon because I'm very late in posting it. But it's basically 3 people in first pick Gazlo that have been playing video games for like 10 years. And they lost one of them and they had to bring in a sub.
Mm-hmm.
They didn't even, and that was their Gazlo player. So you can
Cass,
imagine.
Yeah. Cass, I've matched up against Cass in unranked. It doesn't matter what hero he plays. It's annoying.
Yeah, he's just annoying. Like I've seen him just sit there and like Asmodan and like be like, okay, I'm just gonna kill this wall, walk around these towers, and kill your keep with demonic evasion.
That happened to Regen. We know that story.
Well played, Cass.
It happened to Red Rockets too. That didn't get cast. But yeah, Game Freaks went on, but I think heroic difficulty. They looked super strong, and I think it's going to be rough for Game Freaks to take them out.
Right on.
And I want to highlight a game actually. Adults with Jobs versus Blasting Burrows. Blasting Burrows came back from 1 to 28 on Towers of Doom.
What?
Yes.
That's why TOD is one of my favorite maps.
I casted that.
It's
I
never
was
over.
there,
You had
seat.
that one. Well, how do you? Okay, give us the quick hits. How do you come back from 28 to 1?
Adults with Jobs were winning. They actually had.
There was a pause.
Yeah, there was a pause.
Tactical.
And then everything fell apart.
So they had Fort Advantage, but then they just gave it up, and really it had to do with a lead, right? And Adults with Jobs got a little bit greedy. There was an altar spawn top left. They went for it. They really didn't have to, and they ended up losing heroes. And when they lost heroes, they lost structures. And once the structures were gone, namely that bottom fort, they really couldn't find their footing again, and it all just slipped away. It was just like a downhill, slippery slope with soap on your feet. And 28 to 1, they ended up losing.
And that has propelled Blasting Burrows to the West Finals, and this is going to be one of my favorite games of the East-West Finals. Freelo and the Burrows.
Yeah, this is going to be the best game. I on the other side, I do think A Greek Economy and Heroic Difficulty will be fun to see if Heroic Difficulty can take a map off of A Greek, and there could be an upset there. But Team Freelo versus Blasting Burrows, these are 2 powerhouses. The Blasting Burrows have done nothing but get better all season. Team Freelo has looked dominant all season. Everybody in Div A is a scared of Team Freelo. I would say
who's taking a playoffs. What do you guys see in the finals?
I see in the finals Freelo versus A Greek Economy.
100% agree.
The 100, the 1 seeds. I think this is the only division with both 1 seeds left.
I think this is the first time you're going to see a team out of the West. Of course, last season the West dropped every single Grand Finals game, didn't take one map over the East in any division. This is going to be the first time where I think the Greek Economy, Rumor Mill, they have a little bit of internal disputes going on currently. A few members kind of between leaving, not leaving. I think Freelo takes it in 3 games and completely wipes the floor with the Greek Economy in the Grand Finals.
Yeah, I don't know about wipe the floor. I think A Greek Economy is going to fight, but I think Team Freelo takes that. I think they maybe take it 3-1 in the finals. If it is those 2 teams, if Blasting Burrows does get through, I think it'll be a lot closer, and that could go to a 3-2, and it would be a toss-up at that point. But A Greek Economy, not even knowing anything about any sort of internal strife or whatever, just looking at their play, they look absolutely beatable, which is a total 180 from the regular season.
It's going to be a struggle for them to see if they can get the most out of the limited time remaining before the finals.
Yeah,
and if they make it.
Yeah. Oh, I know. It's absolutely insane. Another thing I've noticed out of Div A, the hyper carry is back in Div A. People are running TAS Vala. People are running Abathur Tracer. People are running Zarya with Valas and things like that. So
and Ariel's,
watch out for that
too.
Oh, and of course, it's always Yrel in there. Yrel is super strong right now.
A lot of play in A and B on that hero as well. Post changes to her. Moving on to the Heroic Division playoffs. The boring set, if you will. Every game has gone to script. And right now...
with the exception of Macro Trash taking out the number 2 seed Victoria's Secret.
And that was the one we were going to get to, because the surprise there was that a hero that I don't think I had on any single cast over the course of the entire season, I don't know if anybody else even had her involved, showed up twice, and that was Valera. And Macro Trash rode 2 Valera games over Victoria's Secret.
Yeah. Hedgie, player who played, I believe I saw 14 different heroes throughout the regular season. In this match, he only needed 1, and it was probably the least expected hero in the entire game. You might have expected Valera in both games. First, it was on Volskaya Foundry up against an Asmodan.
Yeah.
And then game 2, I think it was Battlefield of Eternity, and they won both of these maps with a Valera.
And if you flip through what Macro Trash has done over the course of the season, there is no Valera. I don't believe they used the hero during the regular season. They played comps that were not strictly meta, but they hugged it quite a bit. And then they used the departure again with the double Valera pick, which wasn't even banned out in the second map, to take the victory over Victoria's Secret. They await the winner.
You can't expect it.
They await the winner of 2+2 and team name change, a game which I'm looking forward to and I hope to cast next week. As part of the rescheduled TNC, made it through Order of the Sleeping Dragon. 2+2, the regular season champions went through Salted Snacks in the first round of the playoffs. Team name change is a deliberate team, if you will, and we got to see that characteristic shine through against OSD. As OSD was looking to go for blow-up comps, they were hoping to get online at level 10. They used a couple different things. There was a Pyroblast Kael'thas in there. There was Planet Cracker on Phoenix. But TNC used their strong team fight to win the late game against OSD and actually wound up taking the 2-1 over last season's Div B champs, I believe OSD wound up winning.
Division B champs over
Yes,
Amazing.
Over Amazing. So both of those teams making it to Heroic and making it to the playoffs, but TNC will go up against 2+2 next week. And if you're unfamiliar with 2+2, this is a team that eschews the traditional offlaners. I believe the quote was, anybody can play the offlane if they have an Abathur hat.
That's true.
I like that call a lot. So hopefully some different things will come out. I've had TNC a couple of times during the regular season. They are not adverse to playing things differently. In fact, one of the sets featured them playing double tank, where they used the Diablo in the off lane for one of those maps as well to pick up a win over Salted Snacks. So we'll see who winds up making it through on that side of the bracket. Predictions for Heroic Div. Who do you guys see going up against Macro Trash in the final, and who do you see coming away with the victory?
So I'm looking at this with one team in mind to make it to the grand finals and win this whole thing, and it's 2+2. McNulty, the captain of this team, has a great cast of players on his team, and they have been dominant throughout the season. They're one of the only teams that you can rely on weekly to get wins in the regular season, and they are yet to drop a map. I know they only played against the number 8 seed Salted Snacks thus far in the playoffs, but again, this is a very experienced team with a very experienced leader, and they'll be going up against Macro Trash, which we have to mention Hedgie, who is a season 2 Division B champion with Alaska, and has that experience as well. But is he able, after taking a season off, come back playing now in the Heroic division and win another championship? We'll see. I still got to give it a 2+2, Bobo.
It seems likely. Again, you never want to bet against the favorite. We'll see what TNC can do, as they've gone through a little bit of a shuffle here late in the season, still trying to find their style, but I do love what they were able to do against OSD. Whoever makes the final going up against Macro Trash, we're going to have to watch out for the map pool in that game. Because, listen, Macro Trash doesn't want to play on the large maps. They'll have their one map ban. They want to try to play on tighter maps that are going to favor their team fight style. So I think that's definitely one thing that we will keep an eye on in the finals. I don't really have a hot take other than, hey, I'm rooting for my boys on TNC to make it through and maybe get the upset. I don't think you can go... I don't think you'll be wrong in saying that 2+2 is certainly the favorite.
Yeah. I had the fortune of casting them during the Heroes Hype Amateur Series last week, and they looked, I mean, even though they dropped to Potato Esports during the bracket, I think they looked pretty strong. So I can imagine that they're well-oiled, they're ready to go. I think they're going to do real well.
Yep, and that's a little bit of a wrinkle thrown in here. If you're keeping up on the amateur scene, OpenDiv firing up yet again. ghostDunk, one of the fortunate few that's able to bring us those matchups on Heroes Hype. So there can be an advantage gained here in NGS based on what teams are doing outside of the league, and OpenDiv provides a great place for teams to get a little bit more practice in as we head towards the finals.
Yeah, I've been hearing on Twitter, Order the Sleeping Dragon OSD. They dropped a game. They dropped the playoff game to team name change, but I think they're looking to really push for Open Division.
Open Division's fun, and if you're a fan of NGS and if you're looking to continue to follow some of the teams specifically in the Heroic Div, a lot of our teams will enter the Open Div and see if they can make their way through that gauntlet. So that's definitely a place where you can find them. Just search them out on Twitter, and again, keep up on Heroes Hype. Shout out to the folks running the Open Div. And quite a few of them actually involved here in NGS.
So let's move on to our final wrap-up of this podcast. I think we've touched on all of the NGS divisions. You guys know our predictions now, where we think this is going to all fall into place with the grand finals taking place next weekend on... I believe it is the 16th and the 17th of June, so make sure you're tuning in, and those casters and exact schedules will be announced in the coming week. But I have a special announcement that hasn't really been talked about anywhere within the NGS Discord or on Twitter or anything, but there is a brand new NGS network of streamers that's going to be coming out. It's going to be Bahamut, Crow, ghostDunk, Graysville, and myself, Murda. And we're going to basically be an NGS stream team. There's going to be a lot more information coming soon. Look for a post that our writing team is going to be putting out on the website, nexusgamingseries.com, for more information. Make sure you tune into that. It's going to be a lot of fun, off-season stuff going on, and it should be able to continue on through Season 5. And let's talk about Season 5 for a little bit, because we have signups opening in just a few short weeks. On June 24th, you can start registering your team to participate in Season 5. That registration will close up on July 22nd, so you have almost an entire month, plus the few weeks until then, to get your teams ready. We're looking to start Season 5 on August 6th, and kind of bringing the whole season to an end. The playoffs are going to start October 1st, and the grand finals will be on the 20th and 21st, are a rough estimate for now, but the goal is to have the entirety of Season 5 complete before BlizzCon 2018.
Beautiful. I'm super excited about that, and I'm super excited about BlizzCon 2018. I hear NGS is going to have some meetups if anybody is going there.
Absolutely. Murda,
Yeah,
I know you're going. Who's going to be there? Weenus will be there. Quataka will be there.
Bahamut will be there.
Damn straight.
A few others in my crew that'll be there.
Yeah, we hope to see all of you there as well.
So if you are going to BlizzCon and you have your ticket and maybe you got your hotel or living arrangements put together, make sure you stay tuned on the NGS Discord. There is a BlizzCon chat there, and we're kind of talking about what we're going to do. We're going to have a little meetup. Nothing is set in stone as to what it's going to be quite yet, but keep your eyes out. And other than that, there's just a few more things. We talked about at the start of the podcast that this is a Patreon goal, why this podcast even exists. So if you want to become a patron of Nexus Gaming Series, head over to patreon.com/Nexus Gaming Series. And I believe right now there is a $5 minimum, which might be changing in the future. So if you're looking to get involved with supporting this league, head over. Patreon's the way to do it, and we are so happy to have all of you be our patrons and being able to put this podcast on for you guys.
Right on. We could not do this without you guys. This was a stretch goal that was brought about by the NGS fam. Just want to, again, thank everybody involved, from staff all the way down to our fans and supporters. All right. Where can everybody be reached? I'm Professor Bobo here. I am on Twitter at Professor Bobo1.
And I am Murda. You can find me at MurdaRG on Twitter. Also, same on Twitch.
The ghostDunk you can find on twitch.tv/ghostdunk, and on Twitter I have a different handle for some reason. It's Twitch. It's not even Twitch. It's Twitter, and twitter.com/illuminatedwax. And I really want to thank everyone for listening. What can we expect next for the next podcast?
We are looking to push another podcast out in just a few weeks, looking for a 2-week schedule here. So with the next pod, we are going to look to wrap up season number 4, let you guys know what we thought of the grand finals as they come through next week. And in addition, the second pod is going to have a very large focus on preparing for season number 5. We hope to get some additional persons in to try to talk about, what can help out new teams, what can help out existing teams, how you as an individual can look to improve, what, different high-level strats can come into play here that some of our top teams are using. We'll hope to see if we can get a little bit of a trickle-down effect and bring up the level of play from Div D all the way on up to Heroic.
We want to make sure that we keep the focus on NGS because everybody loves playing in this league, and we want to make sure that we treat it like a real league, and we treat it like it's something important. So we're really looking to, talk about what everybody's doing in NGS.
All right, and we look forward to providing our next podcast for you guys. Again, keep an eye out 2 weeks from now as we hope to push that guy out. Thank you all for listening. I have been your host, Professor Bobo, and I have been joined by both of my 2 great friends, ghostDunk and Murda. Fellas, thank you for joining me today.
Murda, you got any shoutouts?
It's been a pleasure. I mean, you guys heard it all. If you want to give any feedback to us, Twitter at Nexus_series will be the best way to reach us. Just tweet directly at NGS and get the feedback to us, and we'll be able to add that to the next podcast. Number 2 will be coming out in the next couple of weeks, so keep your ears out for that as well.
Yeah, and make sure you let us know what you think. We're really excited for everybody to check out this podcast. We hope everybody's been entertained.
All right, that does it for podcast number 1. Once again, thank you especially to our editor, Jackster, who gave us the introduction early on, doing a lot of the behind-the-scenes work. Shout out to the staff, as always, for helping to provide the environment for us to bring you this podcast. And then once again, we look forward to providing you guys with pod number 2. Keep an eye out.